It was just another ordinary afternoon. Well, as ordinary as any day can get when you're a single mother working double shifts at a hospital. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was beyond exhausted, bone-deep tired from working another overnight shift at the ER. You know that kind of tired? The one that settles into your bones and never really leaves no matter how much coffee you drink or how many times you tell yourself you're fine. Yeah, that was me. I was at the school pickup zone, standing among a sea of other parents. Some were rushing around, probably checking their phones or hurrying to get home. Others were standing, like me, just soaking in the last few moments of peace before the evening chaos set in. The wind was fierce that day papers and little objects were flying around, and my hair kept sticking to my face. You know how it feels when the wind picks up and your hair just won't stay put? Annoying, right? But then I spotted him. My son, Ethan, standing in the crowd of kids, waiting patiently for me. His little frame was so easy to pick out in the sea of children. I felt my heart swell with relief. He was my anchor, the one thing that kept me going. But as I walked toward him, I noticed something. His red shirt, the one I'd been meaning to replace for weeks, was wrinkled. It wasn't the worst I'd seen, but it was noticeable. I frowned, thinking how I should have paid more attention to his clothes this morning. But the truth was, between working long shifts and trying to juggle everything else, little things like that just slipped through the cracks. And yet, here I was, picking him up from school and already thinking about what was next: dinner, laundry, homework. I just wanted a moment to breathe. A single moment where I wasn't running on empty. But then, I saw her. There was a woman standing off to the side, arms folded, watching us. At first, I didn't think much of it. She looked like just another parent, waiting for their kid. But then I noticed the look on her face. It was like she was sizing us up, evaluating us. And then, it hit me. She was looking at Ethan's wrinkled shirt. That was all it took. I didn't know it then, but that shirt was going to change everything. I don't know how long she stood there, but it felt like an eternity. Her eyes never left us. There was something about the way she was watching him that made my skin crawl. She didn't know us, didn't know the first thing about our lives. But there she was, convinced that the wrinkles on Ethan's shirt were a sign of something much darker, something worse. That woman was Karen. And before I knew it, my life was about to take a wild turn. Karen wasn't the type of person to mind her own business. No, she had to weigh in on everything. Everything. And there I was, just trying to make it through another day, and she was already convinced that something was terribly wrong. To her, a wrinkled shirt was proof enough. She didn't see a tired mother trying to keep it all together. She didn't see me, the nurse who had been on her feet for hours, barely keeping it together herself. No, she saw neglect. In her eyes, a mother who let her kid go to school with a wrinkled shirt was a failure. Karen didn't hesitate. She pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved quickly, tapping on the CPS number she had saved in her contacts. I didn't even know it was happening at the time, but she was already convinced that she was doing the right thing, that she was saving my son from some imaginary harm. She called Child Protective Services, reporting what she saw as neglect: a wrinkled shirt. It still sounds absurd when I say it out loud. And I had no idea. I finally reached Ethan, gave him a hug. I could feel the weight of my exhaustion as I bent down to hold him. He smiled up at me, his tired little face lighting up, and in that moment, everything seemed worth it. But the feeling of being watched, judged, lingered. I looked over at Karen, still standing there, still with her phone pressed to her ear. Something was off, but I didn't know how bad it was yet. That would come later. When I got home that evening, I thought I'd finally get a chance to relax. I was tired. I just wanted to breathe. But then, the knock at the door came. I opened it, and there stood a social worker, badge in hand. The moment I saw it, my heart sank. She introduced herself and said there had been a report. Someone had made a complaint about my son's appearance at school. It was about the shirt. I couldn't believe it. A wrinkled shirt. A complaint to CPS because of that? The social worker was kind, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. She asked me about my life, about Ethan, about the long hours I worked. I had to explain everything, every detail. The nights I worked in the ER, the exhaustion that followed. I was humiliated. I felt small. I was a good mom. I knew I was. I was doing the best I could. But the thought that someone could judge me, that Karen could judge me, over something so small, something so trivial, it made me feel like I wasn't enough. Days passed in a blur of worry. Every time the doorbell rang, I jumped. Every knock made my heart race. Was this the day they'd find something else? Was this the day my world would come crashing down because of a wrinkled shirt? But the worst wasn't over. A few days later, I ran into Karen again, this time in the grocery store. I was in the dairy aisle when I heard her voice. "Excuse me," she said, cold and cutting. "Are you the woman whose child has wrinkled shirts?" I froze. My heart dropped. There she was, the woman who had called CPS on me, standing in the grocery store, questioning me like I was some kind of criminal. I turned around, trying to keep my composure. "Yes, I am," I said, my voice tight. She didn't care. She didn't care that she had torn my life apart. No, she just wanted to justify herself. "I just wanted to let you know," she said. "I did what I thought was right. I couldn't just ignore the signs." The audacity. I was boiling inside, but I stayed calm. "You don't know anything about my life," I said, my voice barely holding back the anger. "You don't know what I do to make sure Ethan is okay." Karen crossed her arms, a smug expression on her face. "I'm just trying to help," she said, as if that made it all better. "Help," I repeated, my voice shaking with frustration. "You've made my life 1,000 times harder. You've made me feel like I'm not good enough, like my love for my son isn't enough." There was silence. She didn't respond. And for a moment, I thought I might finally be heard. But she just stood there, that look of superiority still on her face. I turned and walked away. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't let her win. The days after that were a blur of stress, of constant fear. But then, one evening, the phone rang again. It was Karen, and for the first time, her voice was different. She apologized, kind of. She said she didn't know what I was going through. And in that moment, something shifted. Maybe she didn't mean to hurt me. Maybe, in some twisted way, she thought she was helping. But that didn't change the fact that she had destroyed something in me. I told her the truth, though. I told her that I didn't need her help. I just needed her to stay out of my life. And for the first time in days, I felt a sense of relief. The weight lifted. It wasn't the full apology I wanted, but it was enough. I could finally breathe again. And then, I looked over at Ethan, sitting on the couch, his eyes wide as if he could sense that something had changed. I smiled at him, pulled him into my arms. He didn't know it, but he had saved me, and that's all that mattered. The world could judge me all they wanted, but I knew, deep down, that I was doing the best I could for him. And in the end, that was enough. What do you think? Did Karen go too far, or was she just trying to help? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think judgment like this can have a lasting impact on a parent's self-worth? Share your experiences because, honestly, we all could use a little more understanding in this world.